I screwed the timing up on that, but that's okay. We're 8 seconds early.
Good job.
First time I've ever been early in my life, man.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the show. Tonight, we got a really cool guest on. We've got Butch on with us from Hope for Survival. And that little, those bloopers I played in the beginning actually made sense this week because we're going to be talking about, it was basically, we're going to be talking about network and working together and all that. And that was, examples of working together when it failed. But that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, and mindset and stuff like that. Butch, go ahead and kind of introduce yourself. I've got a little bit here. You run the Hope for Survival website. You also do some stuff at Heritage Life Skills. You're in your bio here. It says you're a decorated U.S. Air Force veteran with 20 years of public speaking on emergency preparedness and disaster recovery, with over 39 years of experience in all facets of global security, vulnerability assessment, and emergency planning. Butch continues his efforts to focus on the spiritual and psychological foundation of the family and individual preparedness. And I assume that's basically Hope for Survival, the website, in a nutshell, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And thank you guys for inviting me over to spend the time with you all to talk about preparedness and the mindset. Um, yeah, my sole focus right now is on community. I was blessed to have a great military career and have great leaders and so forth and training. And now it's taking all those experiences and converting it to help the folks that live across the street to get in a self-reliant mindset, you know, to be prepared for any type of event, natural, man-made, technological, loss of job, injury, anything that's going to change their life tomorrow, to be prepared that they can still sustain some degree a lifestyle with food, water, still have shelter in their home and so forth. So that's kind of how it started out. I work in emergency management, and I had been through a lot of FEMA classes. Um, and one thing that really stood out to me was, and it makes sense, critical infrastructure, getting things in a community or a city back up running again. But what about the folks that are around you in your neighborhood? Yeah, there's information out on websites. FEMA has information out there, but statistically, it's proven different programs FEMA's running. Most folks aren't paying attention to it. So
Yeah.
taking time to put hands on, with this information and going out and spending time with people, training individuals, and then trying to get them, once they can, go to their communities and sow seeds, and then support them, go there and help do training and so forth. Helping them build confidence to have hope, regardless of if they're wealthy, if they're payday to payday, there is a way you can do it. And giving them hope and then supporting them to build that sustainment is a winning ticket. And in the end, if we do come down to some major type event, the big one hits, whatever it may be, the more people we prepare around us to help food, water, shelter, security, and some other things, communications, medicinal, that gives us more comfort in our home, in our community, because we have more people who are self-sustaining, and we don't have to invest now so they're not knocking on our door when they're out of
Hey,
food.
hey, Butch, question for you.
Yes, sir.
When you try to get people to prepare, other than finances, what's the biggest like mental challenge? What's the biggest hurdle that you come across with trying to get people with on board with preparedness of some level?
That's a great question. Early on, I made the decision, and I decided to use the word preparedness versus the word prepper.
Right.
A lot of folks, they hear the word prepper and they think doomsdayer and tinfoil hat, and it's wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
it's out there, and because I'm focusing on every day versus preparing for the big one, I use the word preparedness. It is hard to get past that stigma because so much of our population, right and left side, are so dependent on the system.
Yeah.
So one of the ways we've kind of gotten around it a little bit is like, under the president before President Trump, um, 6 months or so before he left office, Homeland Security came out with new guidance, and in it, it said that all Americans should have at least 6 months of food and water. And then, so when, say, in our community, it's not me telling them you need to stock food. The federal government said you need to have it. And oh, by the way, here's some checklists off the FEMA site, again from the federal government who you're dependent upon, right? Follows. So get them started from that perspective and then build upon it. But I have to tell you, I taught classes down at Heritage Life Skills in Waynesville, North Carolina. 2 weeks ago, it's put on by Carolina Readiness Supply. It's a great event. Great instructors from all over, mostly the East, Southeast. This year, compared to past years, one thing that was very noticeable was the number of individuals who were just starting into preparedness of all ages. And in the past, it hasn't been that way. There are folks who are at some level in it, but the number of folks, I trained I think I taught like 9 classes over the 3 days, about 300 people. And it was, I was amazed at the number of folks that had less than 3 months experience in preparedness, but they're on fire to learn.
And
What's
today, oh, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, thanks, Dale. What's their biggest? What do you think? Like one of the biggest things is that's promoting all the new preppers. I mean, obviously, like in the last year, we've had the pandemic. We have this bleak possible financial future. We've had all kinds of stuff going on. What is there any common theme amongst it, or
instability?
Yeah.
I think a lot of folks are paying more attention that the information that's being piped out through mainstream, it's too incoordinate. It's not pro and con to a topic. It's all one-sided. The number of folks who are basically saying that they're not going to go back to work because they make more getting the check from the government right now. You can see, like, I think it's like 20% of 20% of small businesses in America are shut down for good during COVID.
Yeah.
I think Michigan, I saw 1/3 of the businesses are shut for good. I think folks are seeing that. I heard a lot of comments on people followed closely to the whole COVID deal for the last year and a half, and things of that nature. Just individuals trying to be more self-reliant to take care of their families. There were a lot of ladies there, alone, trying to learn. Couples, there were a lot of couples there as well, wanting to learn as much as they could, and then asking, can you like help me? I like, this is my first time this weekend. I need help, and I need it as fast as you can get it to me. Some of them, money's no objective. Some of them, like I tell folks, money should not be the roadblock for you. If you have the desire, and I try to get folks to change their mental toolbox. If you fix it up here and you are now 100% committed to getting prepared, you'll find a way. If you got to get rid of a few cell phones, go mow a few yards, walk dogs, you'll find a way. But you can't prepare for a year till you prepare for tomorrow, right? A week, a month, and you got to build it on. So we try to give a lot. Most folks that I'm talking to, and I'm talking to you guys the other day on the phone, giving people hope. Even when the picture doesn't look the brightest out there, it's giving people hope. and helping build their confidence that you can do this. It's not like rocket science.
Well, and with me and Brian together, we kind of go beyond the basic stuff, but you bring up a really good point about there's a lot more eyeballs on preparedness these days than ever before. And that's why we still try to do some of the basic stuff because there are a lot of new people. And that's why today when we talk about like networking, I don't want to say necessarily prepper groups, but that community and stuff. I want to go through kind of that entry level where the people like you were just talking about getting into it, and then maybe the more not advanced, but the people that have been doing this for a while. Because in the time that I've been doing this, that is probably one of the biggest questions I get is how do I find people? Where do I find people? Before we get into that, though, I've got this clip I want to play. I want to just kind of introduce this segment, but Brian brought this to my attention the other day, and I'm just curious. Yeah, it's pretty funny, but I think I was thinking about this as far as prepper group. So, Butch, as you watch this, what would the pros and cons, I suppose, of this person being in your group be? If it'll make sense here in just a second. If I can find the damn clip. Or not, maybe.
What are the pros and cons of having Dale in your prepper group?
Yeah, no kidding.
Being in charge of your technical side.
There's the con right there. All right, let's play this one right here. Have you seen that insanity, Butch?
No, I heard someone discussing it, but I think I may have shared with you on the phone, or maybe it was with Sarah. One thing that in my day job, I build emergency management teams in the facilities where I work. Basically, how we're trying to teach people for their communities. One thing I've learned is when we have any kind of real event, it is the mothers and the grandmothers who are the first to step up and take charge. Almost always. So seeing that lady running out there, I wonder if her husband shut the sliding door after she ran outside to chase away the bear. I don't know if it's the motherly instinct in grandmothers and mothers, but
I love my dog, but not a chance am I going after the damn bear.
No.
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, you look at it, the bear was on top of the wall, wasn't looking at her. Maybe she actually sized it up and said, I have a shot, because, at the end of it, she pushed the bear off the wall and didn't get hurt.
Well, and if you look, the big dog is kind of the smart one. I'll play this again real quick, but the big dog is kind of the smart one because he gets slapped in the face and then he takes off. He says, oh, hell no, I'm not doing this. But I think as far as prepper groups go, if you got somebody like this in your group, the pros and cons of this is the pros, you're going to have a little bit more as far as rations go for everybody in your group. And the cons is you're going to have to find somebody else to do the gardening or whatever her job was, because she's not going to be around for
gardening.
Yeah.
She's your security, like she's your crazy security officer, man. She's your prepper apocalypse mall cop.
Yeah,
I'm gonna send her to the
there ain't
gate
nobody getting past her.
Yeah, that's the one I want to go to the gate at night. When there's a stranger out at the perimeter gate.
Dude, she's willing to go tangle with a bear over a dog. What will she do for like her family and friends?
Yeah,
and hey, I have no problem with her doing it over a dog. The dogs are great, and she did great. But that woman is dedicated.
Maybe it's her security system, her little yapper.
Yeah,
she's lucky that bear was on that fence, that little tightrope. Because if that bear could have taken a bigger swipe, he would have. But it's just kind of interesting. And the reason I brought that up is because in prepper groups or prepper, your networks or whatever, I don't necessarily want to call them groups, but you have to. Brian and I have talked about this in the past, where it's not just about having that person with the medical skills or the military skills or the gardening and stuff like that. It's those personalities. It's what they're going to do in different situations that make a big difference as well. What their attitude, are they going to be the ones that cower in fear? Are they going to be
Yeah.
the ones that are, figuring out how to do it? Are they going to be the ones that, makes people like me look like wimps going out and tackling bears and stuff? Um,
You
but
know,
all that stuff's important.
um, a lot of folks don't give a lot of thought to the whole brain freeze, um,
Yeah.
the fight or flight. That until a situation happens or someone brings it up to them, maybe in training, maybe where you work at an active shooter class or something like that. But that's one thing that I think that's important about training. You hope that if you have a stressful event happen, um, that you have had repetitive training on how you're going to react, and when the event happens, you immediately go into that training with some common sense, so that you don't stop and give it thought to think and allow the freeze to kick in. You know, um, and one of the things, well, I call them communities, but like in the groups, when I set it up, I call them like a node, a family, or a tribe.
Mhm.
That's kind of how we went about it. And in the preparedness 102 class that I teach, we go through like these are all skills that you need to look through to have to find in your community. But one of the big things is you can have all the skills in the world, but if you haven't spent time bonding together, knowing personalities, strengths, weaknesses, and so forth, um, you could run into bad problems at the wrong time. You know?
Yeah, you get those groups,
Yeah,
and while it all looks good on paper, if
yeah,
you don't know those people, or you don't have that bond to where you absolutely know they're going to have your back. I'm sure both of you, since you have military experience, can speak to this. But it's those bonds that you build, that those people, the bonds that girl built with her little dogs, and just wasn't gonna let anything happen to them. But you start to understand how they're going to react in different situations, and
yeah,
in some sort of disaster, SHTF event, whatever. You want to make sure you have the best understanding possible, I suppose, how that person's going to respond, because it's going to make your job easier. If you can, kind of play off each other and know what each other are doing, you don't
yeah,
have to worry about. Brian was talking about last week, safety third. You don't have to worry about what the other guy's doing, or the other person in your group.
yeah. If you pause for a second or 2 seconds to try to figure out what your partner's going to do, those may be 2 seconds that you can't get back. You
Mm.
know, that may potentially cost you your life. Which comes through again training and bonding and knowing one another, skills, strengths, weaknesses, and sometimes I even get people when I go out on the road and I go to meet with these groups. Sometimes individuals, they don't even know their strengths and weaknesses. You know,
Right.
um, if they don't know their strengths and weaknesses, oftentimes there's a very low confidence level. So they have a skill that's needed, but now it's trying to get that team to work with them to help utilize those skills, but also build them up as a person. And then it comes down to the question of how much time are you going to spend on this project, or how much time do you have to spend on this project of a person, because you need that skill, right?
Right.
So um, they're kind of, I think it's safe to say they're kind of all different. Like the folks up in the community up in Kentucky, when I go up there, they're more rural. Um, there's so many people fleeing cities right now here in the
Mhm.
southeast. They're getting out of New York, New Jersey, and they're coming down to the southeastern, western North Carolina is loaded. The mountains of North Georgia, people are selling out their businesses and homes, and they're moving to the North Georgia mountains and other places. So now you've got city people who are going to the hills, and now you've got to merge them and blend them in with hill people. And there's a huge trust factor there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I have tons of resources, and I want to be part of a team with you, but yet I'm an outsider. So that whole hill people thing, if you will, it's now you got to work to build that trust factor, you know. And I see that often.
Yeah, that's one of those. Yeah, when you're going into a situation, you don't just go in and say, "What's up, guys? I'm here. This is how it's going to go,"
Yeah,
because you're going to get that, get the hell out of here type thing.
yeah,
But if you go in and you're receptive to what's going on around you and all that, and you're willing to learn, things are going to go a lot better for you.
and that's the question that's often asked: is how can I go? How can I go about meeting these people as an outsider? Um, there's the whole meeting people thing. I think sometimes that folks make it maybe a little more difficult. You don't want to go. I tell people, hey, you know what? Either host or go to your neighborhood, go to a cookout. You know, invite people around you in. You don't have to bring up anything. Just talk to them and watch them. You know, listen to what they're talking about. Find the individuals that are standoffish and are also observing. Maybe ask one of them, hey, where's there a a close firing range that I can go take my family to fire on weekends? See who's the one that says, hey, here's where I go. Okay, well, now you know these individuals have firearms, right? And just kind of just drop questions to them, you know. But how you
That's
do it
those,
in suburbia may be different than how you're going to do it in a rural area too. So
yeah,
you got to
that's those
kind of weigh
probing
that.
questions.
Yeah. There's no set recipe. I haven't found a set recipe that's just like a blanket. This will work for everyone. You
Yeah.
know, um, so and then there's it's like every household. You can have 10 families show up, or 15. They're all different. You know, um, I have a lot of ladies who are over the age of 65, 70 that are big time into preparedness. Some of them go regularly to the firing range. Um, they read a lot. They can, and they're into medicinal. They know all that stuff, and there'll be a nice piece into a group, but they're not the ones that can throw on body armor, run and jump in the bunker. You
Yeah.
know, but they have pieces that will help keep certain things, certain functions running. But one of them's not going to be on the security team.
Yeah, I think that may be kind of a trap that we fall into as preppers as well, is thinking that it's got to be this, this defined prepper group, right? With all of these different gaps filled and all that stuff. And ideally, I suppose, yeah, that would be, that would be the ideal way to go, but it's not feasible for most people. And I think you were talking about your neighborhood and stuff, and doing things like that. It doesn't need to be that group that's got one of, a doctor and this person and four people for gardening and this and that. It can basically be whatever you can bring into your fold. If it's a couple neighbors that have the same ideology,
Yeah,
if it's friends that you work with, family members, stuff like that, whatever you can do is going to make your situation better, because we can't do it alone. In a past show, I was talking with Brian, kind of laughing about it, because his buddies, that his friends that he's made throughout his life, would be a fantastic group of people to have around you. My friends, there's a few, but nothing like that. But I think that's that's the one, like I said earlier, that's one of those questions I get all the time, is how do I find people? How do I create this prepper group? And I think people have this idea that it's got to be this structured group.
yeah,
And
Well,
sometimes
hang out in a gun store, man.
Yes.
Go hang out at the gun store. Yeah, that's a good start.
Ham Radio Club.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not casting judgment on people, but there's people out there who will walk into the gun store or they'll walk into the ham radio club new, and right off the bat they'll say, "Hey, I'm a prepper and I have resources and I want to find people like me." You know, and
Yeah.
the shield automatically will like go up. You know, like um, you know, you have the buzzwords and you worry me. So I want to know a little bit more about you before I start getting close to you. You know,
Yeah.
I one of the biggest things that I'm encountering right now that I'm finding is there's like a lot of folks out there, but there's few who want to be a leader. You know, I'm too busy. I don't have time to do it. You know, I'll be part of the group. But no one wants to like be the one to like set up dates to do training, you know, kind of take hold as to keeping the group functioning and organized and tapping into skills of individuals to do training and so on. Um, it's that's one of the things I think I told you. I started a Zoom group last year right after COVID started to try to keep folks when they were locked down, to try to keep them mentally active. So we've ran about 55 weeks now. You know, we started out with the basics, food, water, shelter. We've progressed on to a segment on leadership. We have guests come in and talk on topics. We've covered the Constitution. So we've kind of gone past those basics. And because we had about 150 new folks sign up down at Heritage Life Skills 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to start a second Zoom and run them through that basic again and build them out. But part of it is trying, you know, if you, this is just my belief. If you can't, if you're hesitant to speak before people on a Zoom group, you know, but because of fear of speaking, was the encouragement, what they're teaching to us is great, but it's more so to get you comfortable talking to people. When things go kaput and the stress level, you know, reaches the ceiling, how are you going to convince your family to follow you? How are you going to convince those that live around you that you know what you're talking about if you haven't put forth and shown some leadership qualities, you know? So it's been a little difficult the last few months, trying to find folks to step up to be a leader, whether it's temporary or because I don't pick the leaders. The community groups, they get together and at some point they decide and vote who they want as their leader. And sometimes you have too many that want to be leaders, you know, and you can run into some conflict with that as well.
Yeah. Hey, real quick in the chat, Denise and Liberated Lady were talking about how they're basically that older people lived like that they had that preparedness mentality in the first place.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes to that as you're, you know, people with those asking different questions and all of that stuff. You know, you can figure that out just by the way they carry themselves and the way they do things. And just by, you know, I kind of have a hard time with the whole meeting people and all that because I'm more concerned about, you know, where that really, you know, meeting that dude that just won't shut up, that neighbor that wants to come over all the time. That's my whole thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you want to, you have to put yourself out there a little bit, at least to get to know them, and then you can go, you know, other routes or whatever, or you know, do what you need to do.
So you're saying you're antisocial?
I am antisocial. Yeah. When I meet people, I'm fine. It's not like I'm a dick or anything. I'm not, you know, like get off my lawn. But it's just that, oh no, here they come again. It's like every day somebody knocking on my door. What's
There's
up,
one
buddy?
of those people. There's one of those people over there. They might come and talk to me.
Yeah. sees me in the garage working on something, and he's like, "Oh, let's go talk to Dale, see what's going on." And
Is
I'm
it
like, "Oh,
antisocial or is it antitrust?
it's a little bit of both, I think." Yeah, yeah,
Um, Denise's question is really good. I think I told you on the phone. Um, I in some of the community groups, and they participate on the Zoom thing, so I've gotten to know them over the last year or so. Um, I have several folks that are over the age of 75, 80, right? And they can't do a lot of these functions that we would like to think. They're going to go walk a perimeter or walk your fence, but they have so much up here. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
home remedies. Um, I try to instill people: one is none, two is one, and three is better. Always have a backup to your primary. Being able to do things or fix things with what you have, and not necessarily always buying something in a box that sits on the shelf that's your backup that you never get out until the first to your primary breaks, and then you're like dork because um, times are tense. But a lot of our um, Vietnam vets, they have a lot of hand skill from experiences in Vietnam. Um, a lot of nurses from that are like 60 plus years old, old ways that they used to do things before all the technology today. Great, great resources, and I try to get them to give briefs to the group to learn from skills and ways that they've learned to get around things. It's easy to go spend a couple $100 and buy a medical bag and go through a couple classes, but hearing it from some of these folks that have worked in emergency rooms years past, um, um, maybe especially the ones that have moved to the South that grew up in like Chicago, New York, that worked in city emergency rooms. They are a wealth of skills to offer to us younger folks. Grant, I should
I
say
think about
you younger folks.
yeah, well, not much. I think about how my grandma, like if she were around still,
Yeah,
and if I were to talk to her about prepping or preparedness, she would probably laugh in my face and she'd be like, that's called living. It's like
yeah,
you really don't have, enough problems that you have to actually title something and you have to actually she's like that's just stuff she did. My grandma she was mean. I mean, she was nobody to mess with. I remember she had her little 22 sitting on the nightstand. She had a shotgun with rock salt in it. She had all her canning stuff in the basement. It was that basement scared the hell out of me when I was a little kid. It was just dirt basically. It was a hole under the house,
yeah,
and she had all her canning stuff. She had the pressure cooker, so it's just the way they lived. And then we can learn a whole lot from that stuff, and the way that people did things back then. Because as a society, we've lost all of that, or we are losing all of that. It's everything's prepackaged now. You can go to, you on your way to work, you probably pass by 10 different fast food places.
yeah.
Walmart's got everything that you can think of on the planet and then some. And back then it just wasn't like that. So, and in the future, or in any sort of disaster situation, it may not be like that either.
Yeah, everything's instant satisfaction now. I call it the microwave syndrome from back in the Reagan era. You know, everything become right now. We buy it, we put it in the microwave. We have a meal right now. If we want it, we put it on a credit card. We have it right now. Hard work, is in some ways is a thing of the past. Um, another thing, another plus of folks like your grandmother, learning these skills from them. Um, so many folks that are into preparedness or that are prepping, they spend loads of money on technology. If they
Yeah.
lose that technology, um, can they go out and use a compass to find where they're going? You know, they're they dump out their bug out bag, or their day bag. They dump it out, and like half the bag is like technology. You know,
Yeah.
they got like 4 extra pounds in their bag, just batteries, you know, uh, to run this equipment.
Yeah, and
Even in
if
the
you
military, so much of the military now is high tech, gizmos and gadgets and things that make it easier. There's not a whole lot of the past plotting on pads with pencils, and it's not there anymore. And let's say that we had either a CME or an EMP of some sort, and you lose all those capabilities. Now what?
yeah, the technology is cool and all, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of great stuff out there, but you've got to, I guess, what you need to do is make sure that is that in the case of a CME or the power grid going down or something like that, is that viable? Are there different options to make that a viable product? And if not, you've got to figure out that thing. Yeah, I guarantee you, my kids, um, I've taught them how to read a map, just at the basic level. I guarantee you they don't know anymore because they just don't care.
yeah,
People don't know how to, like back when we were kids, having to get to a party or whatever from your friend writing it down on a napkin or
yeah,
giving you directions.
yeah,
That doesn't happen anymore. Now it's like, give me the address so I can put it in my phone, and it's easier than hell to get somewhere these days. But
yeah,
back in our day, you had to actually think a little bit, and an hour trip usually took you about 3 hours.
yeah. Which and again, it goes back to one of the things that I always try in training, and I try to encourage people, which is part of the whole reason I wrote the book, The Mindset, is we have to know who we are. We have to know our skills and abilities. As we age, our brain tells us we can still do things that physically we'll probably hurt ourselves trying to do again. We have to accept those, but how do we overcome those? How do we overcome those obstacles? Um, Being prepared mentally for your psychological, spiritual, and your physical condition. You know, how well do you know you, and then which helps your mindset, which is your mental toolbox.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, um, you can gain. I think you can gain so much ground helping individuals by being confident, instilling hope in them, to kind of get them out of that shell. A lot of them just feel beaten down. They watch the cable networks, and they don't see sunshine on the other end. And it's
yeah,
like, you know what, um, we need to do these things and to help one another, because God forbid if something bad happens to change our entire way of life. uh, I, and hopefully you and the folks that we work with, I hope we all are there to rebuild our community in a better way on the other end.
yeah,
So I think that's a big part of it. Just trying to. I try to take a lot of things that we used to do. Like my last nine years, I was a security advisor to I was in the Air Force, a special duty assignment, but I was a security advisor to SOCOM and JSOC. And I've taken some of that stuff and I'm now using it as well, trying to teach people basic, simple things like um, the first of every month, I try and encourage people to do like a threat matrix, a global, national, in your 5 mile radius. You know, pay attention to what's going on. Here's the cause. How's it going to affect you, right? You
yeah,
can't change the election that happened in November, but how's it going to affect you? Especially if you're retired and you're on fixed income. Higher taxes, right? You're seeing fuel prices go up. You're seeing food prices that are going up as well. How are these changes going to impact you, right? Foreign policy, how could that impact you globally, that could affect you here in the United States, right?
yeah,
Um, so just try, and the whole thing is a mental investment. trying to get people to invest versus sitting back and waiting on a podcast or something to say the sky's falling, and then they're like, okay, the sky's falling, instead of saying, well, he said the sky's falling, I don't agree because of ABCDE, right? So it's non-ending, you know.
Yeah.
It's all good. I wouldn't want to do it any other way. Helping folks. Um, I think that's especially those of us at our age, if we have anything we can offer to people, um, doing it, you know, because I lived in North Alabama in April of 2011 when we had the massive, I think we had 4 or 5 Cat 5 tornadoes that went through Huntsville. And we were without power and water and utilities and all that for like a week. And everyone around us who had been born and raised in Huntsville, none of them had candles, none of them had food. So they were all like hanging out at our house, and we were like feeding them, you know, and you got to know your neighbors better. But again, it goes to show that that was just a localized disaster. You know,
Yeah.
imagine something that's sustained longer where the system can't get to them and help them. They're gonna be beating on doors. That's why now invest in people and get them to invest in their communities. And even if those around you do not prepare and put food back, you can put a little check mark by their house, and that's good information to know that this house and this house and this house, there's probably people there who are going to last about 24 hours, and you could see them again at your door.
Yeah. Well, hey, Butch, before we get out of here, I completely spaced out in the beginning. You've got a book that just came out. You got a couple books.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Me and my promotion, you got to, if you're on our show, you got to self promote because I'm not going to do you any favors. But
We don't even promote ourselves usually.
You're doing
I
good,
know.
man. You're doing good.
You've got a couple books. You've got one that you wrote quite a while ago, Hope for Survival. And then you've got the new one, The Mindset, right?
Yes.
Explain a little bit about what the mindset's about and then where everybody, well, the link is right here on the video, hopeforsurvival.com. But explain to, before we get out of here, explain to everybody about that book a little bit,
Okay.
how that's going for you.
So the Hope for Survival, the Mindset, been out about 3 weeks. And if I could snap my finger and do it over again, it would have actually been the first book before the Food, Water, Shelter, Security book, which is more of a workbook, manual type book. The mindset is basically I'm addressing you, the individual, and basically I'm trying to take the average person and show them the way to go from the 90% group. I like to call the 90% group that runs to buy the toilet paper, and convince them how to go to the 10% group who runs the opposite direction because they're already prepared, and kind of go through the reasons why. Basically, the goal is to get them out of the box and left of bang. So using verbal and nonverbal skills that we can learn, verbal judo to get out of situations. It took some maturing on my own part coming out of the military. You know, I used to have the mindset that, okay, let's deal with this right now and get it over with. But as I've aged, and have family, I want to live to see another day, right? So trying to encourage people when they go in a restaurant, how to pick a place to sit down, to recognize where there's a secondary exit at. Can you pick the table up and use it as a shield if you need to do so? If you're in a shopping mall, how to sense that there's something not right, and how to start regressing out of the situation before walking through it with your family. So I kind of go through a lot of different scenarios in there. And the whole point you see on the front, it's person in a tunnel and there's a bright light coming at them. For one who is of the 90% mindset, it's a train coming at them, right? But by the end of the book, I have the photo in the last chapter, and I asked the question again. So what do you see now? And hopefully the answer is it's a bright light, because there's hope beyond that light. By training ourselves as individuals, our mental toolbox, to be more cognizant of what's taking place around us, is basically the goal. And then going on into your individual preparations in the first book. So, and all proceeds from my books go to charity. I don't keep anything off of the books. So it's it's going to basically help feed individuals who are out of work or homeless to have food. Amazing how we all focus on food, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Okay, so to everybody in the chat, I apologize. Little Urban Prepper had some good comments. Dustin had something that I missed. So I apologize, but we'll try to, I'll go through these and we'll address them in the next show or something. But I appreciate you being on with us tonight, Butch. You've got a lot of knowledge, a lot of stuff going on. We'll be doing a Zoom call with you here in the future. It's really cool to get these different perspectives and get perspectives from people that have been doing this for a while, people that are helping those new people get into it. Ryan and I try to do that. We've got a big library of stuff that we've done in the past that really goes through the basic stuff, but that's where everyone's got to start, and then you kind of graduate past that. But
I think we have to be adaptable too. You know, as times change, a lot of the things we're doing is the same, but flexibility, you know, what region you live in could be a difference. The politics of your state could be a difference. So we have to adjust. But thanks for inviting me and having me. And I'd love for you guys to one or both of you come over and one of our Zoom calls as well. I like for our folks to hear different perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, real quick, Dale, before we get out, Dustin had a question. He asked, if your mortgage payment never changes, should you stack up cash to ensure you have money to pay to keep a roof over your head, whether inflation goes rampant? I guess you have 1,000 in the bank will pay your mortgage. Hey, Dustin, I would really do some research on that, man, and look deep into that, because that's a really big decision you have. I do know I've seen some stuff where people have talked about that, and they're saying, you know, as these home values get more, if yours is locked in at a lower rate, people are just, you know, your house value may be going up, but you're still paying those kind of those pre-inflation dollars, I think. So I would look at that though and talk to a financial expert, man. I would love to give you some advice on that, but you'll end up freaking homeless if you listen to what the hell I got to say.
Well, and there's just another comment that popped in before we get out of here. Into the Wilderness said, Brian is so cool. If he were a drink, he'd be Kool-Aid. Is that your brother or something, or one of your friends? That's gotta be. Who's gonna?
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. You're suspect, Into the Wilderness. You're suspect. Keeping my eye on you.
It's nice to have serious topics, but to hear you guys actually laughing, that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, we try all the time. Sometimes we get pretty heated. We've even got a little verbal cussing warning that we have to play sometimes, because sometimes we get heated. But we like to have fun and just have conversations and get in the chat. It's just you only live once, and you know, like I always say, the end of the world doesn't have to be the end of the world. It is what you make it. So, but I appreciate it, Butch, for being on this week, and everybody in the chat. Appreciate you all joining in.
But with that, we have a big mission ahead of us, you know.
Yeah, no kidding.
The more we can help daily, it's going to help them go help other people.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
All right, Butch. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
We'll see you all next week.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.